whether you agree with it or not, if you admit 10 to 12 foreign nationals illegal into your country, all of whom need housing, does that make the cost of home ownership go up?
You know, I think that all of these questions and all of these inputs to housing costs.
What about first about illegal immigration? Does that increase demand for housing and make the cost of home ownership go up?
I think that's a distributional question. I think the question we're here to talk about today
Yeah, but does it make the cost of home ownership go up?
We're here to talk about housing supply today.
We're here to talk about home
jobs.
ownership and the cost of owning a home. Does not, you're a bright man. Does that make the cost of home ownership go up when you increase demand that much?
I think that's a distributional question.
You don't want to admit it, do you?
What you just watched is exactly why Senator John Kennedy frustrates Washington and at the same time connects with everyday Americans. This was not theatrics. It was not political noise. This was Senator John Kennedy doing something that feels rare in Congress today. He asked simple, common-sense questions and refused to let anyone dodge them. The issue was straightforward. If millions of people are added to the housing market, does the cost of housing go up? Instead of a clear answer, viewers heard deflections and academic phrases like distributional question, language that means nothing to families struggling to buy a home. That is why this exchange matters. If you care about housing affordability, inflation, and why owning a home feels out of reach for so many Americans, you will want to watch this full breakdown. I am Audrey and this is Congress Lens. If you value honest reactions to what actually happens in Congress, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks very much. Senator Kennedy, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Senator Warner, I appreciate your comments. I've been very, very perceptive. Thank you. Let me say first, Mr. Speaker, I've served with a lot of speakers of the House back in Louisiana. God bless you. You know, you've got an automatic place in heaven.
Thank you.
I wouldn't have your job for all the money in the world.
I can say the same about yours, Senator.
Well, no, you've got to herd all these free-range chickens that wander off and go catch them, and sometimes you can catch some and sometimes you can't.
It's very true.
Thank you for your service. Mr. Williams, if the price of electricity goes up, does that make a house more expensive?
Not in a direct sense, but I mean, electricity is an input to a lot of things, both on the construction side.
It makes home ownership more expensive.
Sure, yes. And
all right, if property taxes go up, does that make home ownership more expensive?
Sure does.
If homeowners insurance goes up, does that make home ownership more expensive?
Indeed.
If interest rates, particularly mortgage rates, go up, does that increase the cost of home ownership?
It does.
A lot, right?
Depends on a lot of factors, but sure, it could.
When you own a home, you're going to have repairs. If the cost of home maintenance and repairs goes up, does that make home ownership more expensive?
Indeed.
Okay. If you, whether you agree with it or not, if you admit 10 to 12 foreign nationals illegal into your country, all of whom need housing, does that make the cost of home ownership go up?
You know, I think that all of these questions and all of these inputs to housing costs.
What about first about illegal immigration? Does that increase demand for housing and make the cost of home ownership go up?
I think that's a distributional question. I think the question we're here to talk about today
but does it make the cost of home ownership go up?
We're here to talk about housing supply today.
We're here to talk about home ownership and the cost of owning a home. you're a bright man. Does that make the cost of home ownership go up when you increase demand that much?
I think that's a distributional question.
You don't want to.
think-
You don't want to admit it, do you?
I think that's a distributional question, and the problem that we're facing
With
is
all due
housing
respect, I think
supply.
you're being disingenuous. Let me ask you, Mr. Pinto, if you increase immigration by 11 million people, does that increase the cost of home ownership?
Senator, yes. We've tried to figure out what that impact is.
I mean, duh.
Yeah, but the federal government doesn't publish where they're distributing these individuals around the country, so we can't do the kinds of experiments that we normally do.
It causes home ownership to go up in some places.
But we can't figure out exactly what it is. We'd love to.
I'm not
We
here
need
to
the
play
data.
games. I'm here to try to get some answers.
But if you could get more data, that would be great.
I'm sorry?
If you could get the data released by the federal government as to where.
I'll give you some data. Mortgage rates are up 123%. Premiums for homeowners are up 16%. The average electricity bill in America is up 28%. That affects the cost of home ownership. No wonder people can't buy a home. This dollar, thanks to President Biden and Vice President Harris's inflation, they've been inflation machines. This dollar was worth $1 when President Biden and Vice President Harris took office. It's worth 75 cents today. That's the fundamental problem with home ownership. The other problem is government regulation. Look, the HUD and the USDA recently adopted the International Energy Conservation Code. Do any of you know what that is? Okay, well, I'm not going to ask you because it's going to take time. They recently adopted the International Energy Conservation Code put out by the International Code Council. And the Biden-Harris administration just said, they just told HUD and the USDA to adopt it. So if you want a HUD or USDA loan or access to the housing assistance, you've got to build a home that complies with the International Energy Conservation Code. You know how much it's going to add to the price of a new home? $31,835. Are you kidding me? You know how much energy you're going to save?
Senator Kennedy, you're well into Senator Padilla's time now.
$657. We need to start with the basics, folks. It's inflation that's killing our people, and it's this crazy whack job regulation.
Senator Kennedy, you're well into Senator Padilla's time now.
I'm sorry, Senator.
That's all right.
Senator.
Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Kennedy, I would happily.
Now that you have seen the entire exchange, here is why Senator John Kennedy was right to press this issue the way he did. John Kennedy did not begin with politics. He began with logic. Step by step, he walked the witnesses through the real costs of homeownership. When electricity costs rise, housing costs rise. When property taxes increase, housing becomes more expensive. When insurance premiums go up, homeowners feel it. When mortgage rates climb, fewer families can afford to buy. Every witness agreed with those points. But when John Kennedy applied that same logic to immigration and housing demand, the answers suddenly became evasive. Adding 10 to 12 million people to a housing market means those people need places to live. Apartments, rentals, starter homes. That is basic supply and demand. It does not require political framing or complex models. Yet one witness repeatedly refused to give a direct answer, hiding behind the phrase, distributional question. John Kennedy was right to challenge that response. When experts can clearly explain every other cost driver but hesitate on immigration, it raises serious questions. Another witness, Mr. Pino, was more direct. Mr. Pino acknowledged that increased immigration can raise housing costs in some areas, even if limited federal data makes it hard to measure the full impact. That admission alone supported John Kennedy's argument. You do not need perfect data to recognize obvious pressure on housing demand. John Kennedy then widened the conversation to inflation. Mortgage rates have surged. Homeowners' insurance premiums are rising. Electricity bills are significantly higher. These are not abstract numbers. These are monthly expenses that determine whether families can afford to stay in their homes or buy one at all. He placed responsibility squarely on inflation and federal policy. Whether viewers agree with his politics or not, the financial reality is clear. When the dollar loses value, borrowing becomes more expensive, building costs rise, and homeownership becomes harder to reach. John Kennedy also addressed regulation, a factor that rarely gets enough attention. He criticized the Biden-Harris administration for requiring new energy efficiency standards through HUD and USDA programs. According to John Kennedy, these rules can add over $30,000 to the cost of building a new home just to qualify for federal housing assistance. That cost does not disappear. It is passed directly to buyers and renters. What stood out most in this exchange was John Kennedy's persistence. He was not disrespectful or chaotic. He stayed focused and refused to let complexity replace accountability. This was not about attacking individuals or scoring political points. It was about acknowledging reality. Housing costs are rising because of inflation, regulation, and demand pressures that are often avoided in serious policy discussions. That is why exchanges like this matter. When leaders and experts avoid clear answers to basic questions, the people who pay the price are families watching from home, wondering why the American dream feels increasingly out of reach. That is the perspective we bring here on Congress Lens. Clear questions. Clear accountability. No spin. Let me know what you think about Senator John Kennedy's approach in the comments. Was he right to push this hard, or should the witnesses have been given more space? I will see you in the next breakdown.